it's really hard to just focus in on one thing and try to become
Yeah.
great at one thing. I think there's this risk involved. There's this addiction it's not new to be addicted to instant gratification, but
Mm.
it's definitely it's hugely prevalent. It's something I mean, I am just now in the past few months really like embodying that idea that I want to become great at one thing instead of
Yeah.
good at a lot, and it feels really good. How did you get there? How did you kind of figure that out?
It hit me over the head enough times that I finally started listening to it. I mean,
That's how it works.
yeah, like the answer is it was a long and winding path. I mean, I never wrote anything. Uh, I was not that kid in high school who wrote short stories for fun. But then when I was a personal trainer, I mean, I was just searching for a way to make a little bit of extra money in a little bit less time, like anybody in any service industry. And I was reading books. I was going to the library. This is how long ago this was. I was going to the library. I was checking out books. And I came across this book called Multiple Streams of Income by this guy named Robert G. Allen. And I have no idea how good the book is. This was like 15 years ago. But in that book, he had a chapter on something called infopreneuring. Keep in mind, this is 2008. So this book was called this book had this chapter on what's called infopreneuring, which was mind blowing at the time. You can sell information and make money from it. Uh, and it was just another thing that I was investigating. I built business plans for smoothie operations around that time. I studied real estate investing, like residential real estate investing. And then in that chapter, he talked about how you can actually write and self-publish your own book about something that you already do as a job because other people who are earlier on in your career could benefit from that. Again, mind-blowing at the time, right? And I had been a personal trainer at that point. I was 23 years old. I had been a personal trainer for about 4.5 years. I was like, okay, well, there's new personal trainers. Like, clearly there's people farther along than me, but I've also learned some shit in my last 4 years. And so I wrote a book for personal trainers and I self-published it. Book came out in 2011. It's called Ignite the Fire. That book, based off of that, started a website to promote the book, started publishing other people. And then I was like, okay, now I have an audience. Now I have a platform. I mean, you're talking to a guy who spent $1 million plus on content from 2013 to 2019. I was a quote unquote creator before that word existed. And so I did all the things, Jack. I hosted 5 conferences. I've built 8 digital programs, 3 membership sites. I own a software platform still for some reason. I mean, I counted at one point a while back for the first time ever. I've actually built 7 different unique verticals where I've built at least a 6-figure business in them. And then what I'm left with at the end of it is there's actually one common thread throughout all of them, which is, idiot, your books. Why are you trying to do all this other shit? That's the only thing that's persisted. And so I took a little bit of time away. You know, we had this, I told this story in The Obvious Choice where it started where, obviously as a result of COVID-19, things went a little bit sideways. And then my wife got diagnosed with cancer and I just took some time away to kind of think and reassess. I was like, okay, well, this is a message that's been beating me over the head. Maybe I'll pursue what I call like full-time authorship. And that's when I went out and got an agent, got a publishing deal, published that book, Obvious Choice. The next book is called The Obvious Challenge. That's going to come out spring 2026. That's about intentional life design. Same publisher, HarperCollins. And so it just, and then systematically started giving away a lot of the upside of my companies so that I can focus more on this. Hit me over the head for long enough.
Yeah. Is writing, like, I think it's crazy that you've published 12 books, you're writing your 13th.
I mean, yeah, but like, how many of those were good? Call it 6.
Okay. Still,
Call it 6.
Writing a book is such a daunting task. Like that's a lot. But you talk about in the obvious choice how you have this, you have a system. How much do you write every morning? It's like a certain amount of
2 hours.
words. Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
mean, this
2 hours.
morning, like I was up at 6 this morning. Family usually gets up about 8:30, so I was up at 6, finish about 8, and then I start making breakfast, and then my two boys kind of slowly toddle their way out, and I'll usually uh gently wake up my wife around 8:30. We work well together, her and I, because I'm a morning person, she's a night person.
Mm-hmm.
So the mornings I can kind of handle the load, and then at night, really past like 3 p.m., I'm pretty much useless. So she does the night times, and then but this is like, I think this is an important conversation to have, because if you think about what I mean, dating apps as an example, like how do most people meet girls these days? They go on dating apps, which is fine. There are some things that they make easier. For example, everybody who's on there knows that everybody else is interested in finding something. So immediately that initial awkwardness, do they have a boyfriend? Do they not? Or look, it opens up a much more honest conversation, right? There's the same intent,
Right.
which allows you to just be like, yo, I wish you the best. That was super cool meeting you, but like, I don't think this is going to work, but I wish you the best, versus that awkward. So that's cool. But the problem comes down into search. And this is a deeper conversation that I'd love to have, if you will engage me with it. When it comes to dating apps, you put in who you are, you put in what you're looking for, which is always going to be people similar to who you are in your interests, in the patterns of your day. But actually, the best relationships can be best defined by people who are complementary to one another. They're the yin to the yang. There is similarity in values, but actually they're opposite in a lot of ways. And so my wife, Allison, is a night person. I'm a morning person. On a dating app, she probably would have included hobbies that happen past 10 p.m., as if that's a time that people experience vertically. It's not for me.
Right.
And so we probably would have never met. The very thing that makes our household management work so well probably would have stopped us from finding one another if
That's
we tried to
fascinating.
find one another electronically.
Yeah. I'd never thought about that before, but that's so interesting. And we wonder why so many relationships are so short term nowadays and stuff doesn't seem to last. I think that complementary qualities in a relationship are so important. My best friend, I've been friends with him since I was 4 years old. And I mean, we're very similar people if you look at us like on the outside. And my guess is that you and your wife are very similar if you look at like your values and things like that, right?
100%.
But when it comes to habits, and there is that different, there's that complementary part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's super interesting. That's how I think a lot of good relationships, whether they're romantic or friendships, work. But a lot of common media pushes us to really hyper focus on the similarities.
And you got to think all of this. I mean, we're basically a society run by search, right? You think about, I mean, you're not at the point now where you're buying a house, but another example is buying a house, buying a property. And there's actually really interesting data that backs this up, that houses just outside of search bubbles are priced much lower than houses on the other side of the block that just happen to be in the neighborhood. You know, so if you're searching for a house, you're going to search for a house with like 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, or what about a house with 3.5 bedrooms? Or what about a house that, you know, if there's a school district that's in vogue, for example, people are going to search for that district on the app. What about a house that is 1 block on the other side of the road? And what about if you don't care about the school district because your kids are grown up or you're not going to have kids? There are lots of ways, if you understand how these things work actually, where you can almost assume or assess how the search works and then find like advantages outside of that. There's a lot of like really interesting false economies that you can take advantage of. It's really fun.
That's interesting, but you have to dig in. You have to know what to look for and understand that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what's missing That's one of the biggest. I think it was a Charlie Munger thing. Like every business author ever, I'm going to quote Charlie Munger. What he always says is invert, always invert. Like you don't look at what's there, you look at what's missing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk about this with outlier stories and obvious choice, where it's like, well, yeah, even if somebody makes the dumbest decision ever, um, and it only works 5% of the time, like, yeah, they have a 95% chance of failure, but they also have a 5% chance of success. And so, what happens next time when that same person makes a dumb decision? It's not going to work for them, but you don't see that because you've moved on to the next outlier.
Right.
And you're comparing yourself to them. Well, it works the same way when you're making big decisions in life, like you're looking for a house. What do other people care about that they value that you don't? Uh, Maybe you love the fact that you want to live next to a pub because you want to reach over your fence and get a pint. And so other people would not, that house will be discounted, whereas that bug for others is a feature for you. Again,
Right.
other people care about school districts or um, whatever, walkability. Maybe you don't. So then you actually look for places that don't have that. You search based off of what other people don't want in order to find advantages. And then there's just a huge drop off from best to second best. There always is.
You just finished watching a clip from the Grateful Podcast episode with Jonathan Goodman, author of The Obvious Choice. If you enjoyed it, you should go check out the full-length episode right here. I know you'll like it.